The rhythmic clatter of the wheels against the tracks filled the air as I settled into my seat on the dimly lit train. The cabin was empty, save for a few other passengers scattered throughout, each lost in their own world. I had chosen a late night train to avoid the crowds and noise, but as the journey began, I couldn't help but feel a growing unease. The train moved through the countryside, the darkness outside broken only by the occasional glimmer of moonlight. I gazed out of the window, my reflection staring back at me, distorted by the passing landscape. The world outside seemed surreal, as if I had stepped into another realm altogether. A shiver ran down my spine, and I turned my attention back to the interior of the cabin, hoping to shake off the feeling of being watched. As the train rumbled on, I noticed a flicker of movement at the end of the corridor. I strained my eyes, trying to make out the figure that seemed to be pacing back and forth. My heart raced as I realized that there was no logical reason for someone to be pacing in an empty train corridor in the middle of the night. I looked around, but the other passengers seemed oblivious to the eerie presence. Trying to dismiss my growing anxiety, I buried myself in a book and had brought along. The words on the pages danced before my eyes, but I couldn't concentrate. I could still feel the weight of that unseen gaze upon me. Glancing up, I saw the figure that moved closer, now standing just outside my cabin. It was a woman, her face obscured by shadows, her eyes gleaming with an unnatural intensity. I blinked, convinced that my tired mind was playing tricks on me. But when I opened my eyes again, she was still there, staring at me through the glass. I wanted to look away, to break the connection, but I couldn't move. A sense of dread washed over me as her gaze bored into my soul. It was as if she was searching for something deep within me. Summoning all my courage, I finally tore my gaze away and rushed to the cabin door. I stepped out into the corridor, my heart pounding in my chest. The woman was gone, but a chill hung in the air, as if her presence lingered. I walked cautiously down the corridor, my footsteps echoing in the silence. Each step felt heavier than the last, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn towards something. I reached the end of the corridor, my breath catching in my throat as I saw the door to the last compartment ajar. The darkness inside seemed to stretch on infinitely, like a void that threatened to consume everything. A whispering wind seemed to beckon me closer, and despite my instincts screaming at me to run, I stepped inside. The compartment was freezing, the air heavy with an otherworldly chill. I could feel a presence, a malevolent force that seemed to wrap around me. I stumbled back, my heart racing, but before I could retreat, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was the woman, her eyes now glowing with an eerie light. "You came?" Her voice echoed in my mind, sending shivers down my spine. "I have been waiting for you." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. It was as if I was trapped in a nightmare, a prisoner to this haunting apparition. She reached out a cold, translucent hand towards me, her fingers brushing against my skin. I felt a jolt of icy electricity shoot through me, and suddenly, memories flooded my mind. Memories of a past I had long forgotten, of a connection I had once shared with her. "You promised," she whispered, her voice a haunting lament. "You promised you would never forget." Tears welled up in my eyes as the truth washed over me. I had made a promise to her, a promise that I had broken, a promise that had led her to this lonely, tormented existence. The weight of guilt and sorrow bore down on me, and I realized that the only way to set her free was to remember, to acknowledge the past. As I embraced the memories, the woman's form wavered, her expression softening. The icy grip on the room began to recede, and a sense of peace enveloped us. She smiled, a bittersweet smile, before slowly fading away, leaving behind an overwhelming stillness. The train continued its journey through the night, the moonlight casting an ethereal glow on the landscape outside. The cabin was no longer empty. The other passengers had come to life, their faces filled with a sense of purpose. It was as if the woman's presence had awakened something within each of us, a reminder that the past should never be forgotten. And so, as the train rolled on, I knew that I had been a part of something extraordinary, something that defied logic and reason. The haunting rails had brought me face to face with my own past, with the promise that had been buried in the depths of time. And as the first light of dawn broke through the horizon, I knew that I would carry this experience with me, a reminder that the line between the mundane and the supernatural was often thinner than we could ever imagine.